This is what an average meal looks like in the 1970s. This is what an average meal looks like today. This is the kind of activity that our kids engaged in the 1970s. This is the kind of activity that our kids are engaging in today. So it's no wonder that our nation is in the midst of a healthcare crisis. With nearly 2/3 of Americans either overweight or obese, obesity has been cited as the most urgent public health problem in America today. And this is why programs such as Michelle Obama's Let's Move campaign are getting so much attention. And they're having an impact. A new federal report showed a 43% decline in child obesity rates among children aged 2 to 5 years old. This is promising, but it's not enough. Projections for our future are still bleak. And while I can control the food that my kids eat and the activities they engage in at home, I know that the world around them, through school and through work, will play a large role in influencing the health choices that they make. Even the largest organization in our country is concerned. Active duty service members are prone to the same health challenges that the rest of the nation faces. Nearly 30% of potential military recruits can't even qualify for the military because of their weight. And the leading cause of involuntary separation among active duty service members is inability to meet fitness requirements. Last year, the Department of Defense came to us as experts in designing for behavior change to help them find a way out of this problem. We studied over 20 award-winning and highly recognized wellness systems in organizations such as Johnson & Johnson, LL Bean, and Safeway. And what we found was that this problem can and is already being fixed in pockets across the country. What we saw was that organizations, through their reach and through their influence, have the power to shift people's mindsets around health, and that they might actually be in the best position to move our country in a healthier direction. I want to introduce you to Ann and Jay, two people that we met during our research. Ann had gotten to work late one day, and she had to park at the far end of the parking lot. She was dreading that walk to work, and by the time she finally reached the building, she was exhausted and out of breath. And she was done. Done feeling this way. Done feeling unhealthy, especially around a community of healthy people at work. She happened to have a gym right down the hall from her at her office, and she remembers that first day really well. She recalls spending a good 15 minutes in the locker room crying because she was so scared to take that next step. And she was afraid that she would see someone she knew in the gym that day. Well, Ann did in fact see a colleague in the gym that day, but to her surprise, the colleague welcomed her in and cheered her on. And her trainer gave her high fives every time she came back, and her manager started praising her for all of her health efforts. A few months later, Ann had lost 50 pounds, going from a size 14 to a size 4. She marked her achievement by going out and buying a 50-pound bag of dog food as a visual representation of what she was able to accomplish. Today, Ann purposely parks at the far end of the parking lot, and she enjoys that walk to work. For Jay, his family was everything to him. But because of his weight, he was no longer able to keep up with his kids, and he was feeling disconnected from his wife. She would go for runs while he would sit on the couch watching TV. Frustrated by this lack of connection, he finally pushed himself to go to the preventative care clinic at work. Now, Jay hadn't been to the doctor in a very, very long time, and he was not prepared for what he was about to hear. She told him that he was obese and pre-diabetic, that he was at serious risk for long-term illnesses and would need to go on medication immediately, possibly for the rest of his life. Has anyone here in this room ever had that experience when you're buying a new car and all of a sudden you start to see that exact same car that you want to buy all over the road when you could have sworn that you'd never seen it before? Well, that's what started happening to Jay. He started seeing things all around him at work that he could have sworn he had never seen before. Healthy food at that cafeteria, wellness incentives. He even had a state-of-the-art gym right there at work. He pushed himself to go to the gym the next day, and through the gym, he met people from different departments, and they started a biking group. He found people that actually expected him to get out of bed in the morning and meet him on the road, and he did not want to let them down. 8.5 months later, after losing 85 pounds, Jay ran his first half marathon with his wife by his side and his kids cheering him on. So why are these stories important? Because the health movement that Ann and Jay were able to achieve was not the result of something that we typically expect to create such a movement. It was not a medical emergency, it was not family pressure, it was not a midlife crisis. Instead, it was the result of a workplace environment that fostered a culture of health strong enough to make them believe that health was possible for them, and that supported them in every step of their journey, a path towards health that opened up a new world for the individual, and that opened up a new perspective for those around the individual, until eventually populations of health started emerging from the individual collective journeys. The best wellness organizations believe fundamentally that health is not just the absence of disease, but it's a mindset, and it's a way of life. And it's not until we interact with health day in and day out can we truly achieve sustained health movement. So, what were these organizations doing to foster such a culture of health and to build more stories like those of Ann and Jay's? We saw them do three primary things. First, they worked to make health personal for their employees. People don't get healthy for health's sake. Health is seen as a means to an end, to be there for family, to look better in a swimsuit, to perform better at work. At Johnson & Johnson, they understand this. And so they speak about health to their employees in terms that they actually care about. And they engage their managers in training programs intended to connect good health with energy and performance, both at work and at home. For Jay, it wasn't until he internalized the impact that his own health was having on his inability to connect with his family did he take that first step. The second thing these organizations are doing is they're making health a collective effort by taking advantage of the social dynamics that already exist in the workplace to motivate and sustain action. We're all social creatures. We don't want to let others down. We want to feel like we're a part of something. And the best wellness organizations are actively leaning on this dynamic to build health momentum in their community. They're creating a human architecture, all the way with senior company leadership, and they extend down to the employees' peers. Each role plays an important and distinctive function in cultivating the kind of supportive environment that drew Ann and Jay into health and that kept them there. For Ann, it was feeling like an outsider among a community of healthy people that pushed her into action. And it was that same exact community, with their support, that she was able to sustain her ways. The third thing that these organizations are doing is they're building a symphony of health around an individual. Our current healthcare system is focused on individual health and individual treatment, where health is being practiced annually at the doctor's office. But in order for health to become a mindset and a way of life, an individual needs more than this. The best wellness organizations are bringing together the built environment, company policies, and leadership messaging under a single mission of wellness. When Safeway redefined their core business from a grocery company with a wellness program to a wellness company that happens to sell groceries. And they reinforced this through leadership messaging, healthy food at the cafeteria, a state-of-the-art gym, and ongoing employee stories. The program really took hold. Without spending 8 hours of their day in an environment that opened their senses up to health, the likelihood of Ann and Jay losing their way would have been great, just like it is for so many of us. Leaders at the best wellness organizations understand that if they can bring together these three approaches to reduce the burden of disease, they can reduce the burden of the cost of disease. And this is exactly what's happening. Organizations that we saw were achieving upwards of $45 in health savings for every $1 they invested in health. And their annual healthcare increases were averaging 1% to 2% compared to the 7% national average. Health was just seen as a good investment for these businesses. As Johnson & Johnson's former CEO always said, good health is important to all of us, but good health is also good business. So let's lean on these organizations to continue this movement towards health, and let's expect more from our own workplaces. Let's challenge them to take the responsibility for our health more seriously. Let's inspire them through stories like the stories I shared with you today, and let's help them understand that investing in our health is good for their bottom line. Everyone here in the room today has the power to move our nation in a healthier direction through the organizations that we work at. Our organizations are microcosms of society, and they're important and unleveraged settings to help move the needle, changing our future from one that looks like this to one that looks like this. Thank you.